Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Massive confirmations yesterday coming out of multiple teams camps, especially on the Sentinel side, with Kaplan confirming that Marved will be in the starting roster full-time going forwards. TenZ is still part of the team and part of the roster, but he is benched officially from the starting team. Will TenZ return at some point? Could they make a six-man situation work, as we quite often see in the Pacific region? Plenty to dive into today. Very much enjoyed to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. First of all, this is the roadmap from now to the end of the year. There is, of course, the International League playoffs that I finally realised are actually happening. May 19th to the 28th, so the 6 teams get down to 3 to determine who gets to Masters Tokyo. And those 3 teams will also qualify automatically for champions. We'll see that in a second. That maybe shouldn't be the case. There might be, maybe there should be another split to help determine those things, but that's how it works. The Challenger League playoffs then go alongside that, of course. I'll just make sure you can fully see this on screen. May 19th through June 11th, and then the Champions qualifiers in China that just precede the last chance qualifiers from the other regions that coincide with the Challengers Ascension tournament. That's a big deal right at the start of July, and then Champions itself in August 6th through to the 26th in Los Angeles. So that is the roadmap for the rest of the VCT, and also a big confirmation here that these are the champion slots. So 16 team tournament, very exciting stuff, as it should be at least 16 teams, I believe. So 3 from the Americas, 1 from the LCQ. So the top 3 teams at the playoffs that are coming up in a few weeks' time that qualify for Tokyo in all the regions automatically arrive to champion. So 3 from the Americas, 3 from the Pacific, 3 from EMEA, and then 1 each from the LCQ. And this is the thing for me, right? The 4 teams qualify all the way through to Tokyo, right, at Masters, but only the top 3 of those teams are guaranteed to be at champions, and the other one still has to fight through the LCQ. So that's pretty tough, but that is how it is. But also, the big thing that people are noticing here is that China, the qualifiers they have, is going to open 3 slots for them. Now, this isn't really a massive surprise. It's a massive market for Riot in general, and they will want to capitalize on it. But, some would argue the level of competition of these Chinese teams that are taking spots, right, from other teams in other leagues is maybe not fair, but whatever. We're going to have to get used to it, and that's how it is. So the Chinese qualifiers have equal weighting as the other regions, and they will continue to push China, and they will be, I'm sure, very competitive over the coming years. But then there is another spot here to the winning region of Masters that is also determined to close out the 16-team bracket. So pretty cool stuff, to be honest. And yeah, this is how it works. All other teams that don't kind of qualify for Tokyo will compete through the last chance qualifiers going forwards. Quick note on what's going on in the European region. These are some of the best players, of course, of the Americas League. But in Europe, it was an interesting couple of matches last night. Mixwell especially was frustrated with their defeat to BBL. Pretty important defeat, actually, in the context of the league. Now, their icebox wasn't so good, but as he says here, we didn't breach ult Killjoy close short on Haven when I called that he was doing the stun setup. Now, it's unclear at the time whether he was effectively calling out his teammate for a poor play or whether he was calling out the game. Turns out it seems it was a game issue. You guys can actually see right here, this for some reason it's just pausing, but you guys get the picture that this Killjoy here in the corner is trying to take this fight, and the breach ult comes in, doesn't even stun her, and she just gets the kills in this corner. So confusing one, to be honest, why that was the case, why there was nothing going on here. And as Mixwell says, please fix this ASAP, because yeah, this was not good at all for them. Whether this was actually user error or whether it was indeed a mistake by the game itself, whether it's a bug, kind of unclear, but looks like it should have stunned her. Didn't, and that was a big round for them. They eventually win 2-1 BBL, massive result there for them. And yeah, Heretics go down 14-12 eventually on the Haven, 13-10 on Lotus, and then 13-2 on Icebox. So I mean, look, they can complain, they should feel like they should have 2-0'd, but still can't get blown out on Icebox like that and feel like you deserve the series victory. This also from Scream. Finally, can you believe it, KC have won a series. They beat Koi last night, and it just frustrates, like, why is kind of French-speaking FPS players, why are they like this? It's the same thing with Shox and NBK and others in the Counter-Strike days. They seem to think they're good IGLs. I don't understand why they seem to think they should be the IGL for the team, but it's always been a thing, and Scream over the last few months was like, I'm going to be the IGL, I'm going to lead this team to glory. Turns out when he's not the IGL and he's just on the duelist slaying out, he's fantastic again, and it's like, why am I not surprised? So of course their assistant coach came in here, did a stellar job this series, all things considered, but has been calling for the roster, and now they just look way better, right? So I mean, they got better in the first series they played, now they're even better than that. And a really big result over Koi here, right? So finally a good performance, 13-6 on Lotus, 13-8 the other way on Ascent, but 13-11 in the end on Haven. So much more competitive here for KC. Great to see finally, and Scream is actually going to be having a good time nowadays, it seems. So yeah, Koi not so happy about this one though. We'll just look at the rankings real quick, with Koi sitting down here at 1-4, KC at 2-4. So maybe there's even an outside chance they salvage this season somehow, which I would not have said a few weeks ago. Update as well on Evil Geniuses before we discuss Sentinels. George Geddes says that in meetings have taken place within Evil Geniuses with the players regarding the team moving forward. Head coach Potter has a month to produce results, or she faces losing her position internally. Players are unhappy. So this is quite the thing to be leaked actually by either an internal source at Evil Geniuses, that things are not looking good internally. Fundamentally, bringing Demon 1 in was a good core, but having BCJ on the bench is still a bit of a question. And apparently Potter has 1 month to turn the ship around, or it's, it's done and dusted for her effectively. Now, at the end of the day, it says, a month sounds pretty scary, which is true, but it also just is the end of the split really, and would be effectively the end of the season kind of for this EG roster as well. So they have until Masters really to see how things go, and if they don't turn things around at all or look even potentially competitive come the LCQ, then it could be GG for that organization in terms of what they do with their team, and significant further changes could be coming. Speaking of changes, then here we go with Sentinels. Looked like this yesterday, with people noticing that in scrims M80 were playing Sentinels, and spotted in here was Marved again in their scrims. This makes perfect sense. I said the other day I would have been very, very surprised indeed if Marved was once again turned to the bench, because Marved came in as a substitute replacement for TenZ, but of course they played way better with Marved than they were with TenZ. Not to say that Marved is, just way leagues above TenZ in terms of ability, but just in terms of roles, the way the team chemistry seemed to work with Marved in, what Marved brings to the game outside of just his ability to get kills is very valuable, and it was an absolute, someone as good as Marved should not be on the bench. Now, you can make the same argument with TenZ, and we'll see in a second what that might potentially look like with what Kaplan says here in Tag's immediate reaction.
Moving on, let's talk about the roster moving forward. This season is extremely short and very punishing. After the past weekend's results, as well as a good talk with Tyson, we've made the decision to start Marved for the rest of the league split. Marved is here, and he's looking sharp as ever, so we're confident we can pick up right where we left off with TenZ. Make no mistake, TenZ is not going anywhere. He's still a part of this team, and he'll be with us for every step of the process. It is my top priority to win these next few games and make sure we bring the whole team to Tokyo and represent America at Masters. All right. Let's move forward. We've got a tough opponent this week in Cloud9. They're looking red hot right now, and it's up to us to put a stop to it. Really pleased with how we looked with 2 days of practice this weekend.
He looks more like Shroud than Shroud himself.
And grinding to look much more prepared for this weekend. As always, thank you to the fans for your continued support. We're going through a lot, but the job's not finished, and the work doesn't stop.
Yeah. So, I think I like that they clarified that Tyson's still on the team and he's still gonna be there for all of it, but they're just giving him some time to take a break. So yeah, let's see what they cook this weekend. Cloud9's a big game.
So I thought a really nice tweet here from Marved as well. Take the time to rest King TenZ. I'll hold it down for you. So, look, TenZ, of course, it makes sense, right? He's not going to be able to play right now with everything that's going on for him personally at 100% capacity. And even TenZ at a 90% capacity is still probably a better half of the league type player and can be very valuable indeed. But for the way the Sentinels roles are working right now, Marved over TenZ just makes more sense. You absolutely cannot put Marved back to the bench given the way he performed last time, the way their team looks like it's taking a big step in the right direction. So TenZ stepping out as a break is pretty nice, probably for both parties, and I thought it was cool that Kaplan says, look, he's still part of this roster, he's still part of the team, he's still definitely the sixth man on the roster right now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to be gone for a long time. They want him to be a part of their journey to Tokyo, and that's what they intend to achieve over the coming months here. So Dephh is not going anywhere. Kaplan makes it very clear that Dephh did a great job that that past weekend when Marved came in to control the troops of the team, and whether Sassy could do a job that well, like, I actually think it's kind of doubtful. I think Dephh deserves more credit than he gets. The one question that has been raised here, and I can understand why, is the future of zyppan in relation to the TenZ discussion, because zyppan now, since TenZ is gone, has stepped into the duelist role and has done very well on it. The thing is though, if TenZ was to potentially come back at some point, would zyppan be the one to therefore make way, or would zyppan step into a different role and TenZ would come back to his role, or, you know, what exactly would happen there? I know that people have discussed that there might be a world in which zyppan or TenZ swap out depending on the map. Maybe on some maps TenZ really likes and zyppan isn't so keen on using the duelist on, TenZ could actually come in there, and then zyppan could come in on some of the other maps. Maybe they could make a situation like that work in the future, so I think it's something to contemplate. But right now, having Marved and Dephh to kind of solidify the situation of what we saw last week from Sentinels is probably the way to go, and I think a good decision overall for all parties. But how this looks in a month's time is going to be very interesting, because a player of TenZ's caliber really shouldn't be on the bench. I think right now it is the correct call from a personal and team perspective, but at some point he will want to get back into the starting team, and how exactly they accommodate for that is a key question. Let's talk Disguise, because they have been struggling lately. It's interesting to see actually that when Disguise first came around, I thought this roster was slightly more promising than the Moist Moguls roster, whereas nowadays it's the entirely other way around, and MM are really making a good run for their money. But yeah, Disguise, they bring Exalt back officially. I believe he's going to be back on a more permanent basis now. Of course, Steel is benched. Exalt is the man that they initially got rid of, and now they bring him back to the roster. And I believe this is Exalt's mother here on Discord saying it is not temporary. Exalt is back on the team permanently. So maybe that's just what she was told by Exalt. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it is true. But yeah, just pretty funny stuff. Esports mums are the biggest leakers in global esports, I gotta say. The amount of things I've seen leaked by parents of players over the last couple of years is hilarious, to be honest. But look, Disguise, they go down. Yay was probably their brightest spot this game, to be honest. And Vic had a nice little ace here towards the end of this round as well. But yes, a 2-1 victory for SR. Disguised probably could have closed out this series 2-0. Yay was their standout player, had a great series individually. Exalt had some good moments on the utility, but everyone else was not looking good. And I can't say I'm massively surprised, given the names on this roster, that they got beaten up by an SR team that should be better on paper, but they're just not looking great. 13-9 here on the Ascent, great map from Yay. Haven was 13-7 the other way, and then 13-8 on the split, and they were just some plays in Disguise, like, what were they playing out here? So they've got a lot to work on, right, because they're not looking so good right now. Yay is obviously going to be their standout player, right? He certainly was that series, but that team is just not operating particularly well, and SR were not exactly super clean, but they got the job done with Vanity, of course, versus Yay, which is an interesting story given the Cloud9 days. The Guard also took down all esports, was far from easy for the Guard, 13-11, 13-11 both maps. So they, and I know Net tweeted out to say that they have work to do and room to improve, because that was far from their cleanest series, but still the Guard get the job done in the end. So that's what we're going to discuss for today. Yay, not so happy about the situation losing to SR, but I'm sure he feels like, look, if he just performs well, he'll get another spot in tier 1 at some point. But Disguise are not the team right now, at least, to take him to win Ascension. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.